Yeah, so next up we have our first of our two live product demonstrations. Terelou is one of our most senior Exo consultants, and the first of the two presentations, we're going to get Terelou to show you the new interface and features in MYOB Exo, including a bit of a demo of the new UI. So we can see your screen, Terelou, if you just want to unmute your microphone.
Good morning, everyone. I am tasked today to show you some of the new features of Exo 2020, which is the upcoming version of Exo. Now, there was some feedback previously that Exo in the old version, the screen is so busy, it is not that clear, it's outdated. So MYOB heard those feedback, and now they are coming up with this Exo version 2020, which will have the modern look and feel of Exo. So I have opened in here two versions of Exo. The first screen is actually the 2019.4 version, which is the current release version of MYOB, and the upcoming version, which is the Exo 2020 version. So this 2020 is not yet released, but it will be released very soon. So to show you the difference between the the current version and the upcoming version, you would see I created an activity here. So within the activity, if you hover around the activity, it will give you some summary, okay? But what is really nice is when you drill down to the activity now, this is the current version or the new version that's coming up, and this is the current version. You will see a big difference on the screen, okay? So you would see that the buttons are now monochrome, so it's easier to read. The fonts are larger and easier to look at. It's clean, crisp, and there's no more like that shading in there that makes that screen so looking busy, okay? The other thing that was also added was this send email button in there. So you would notice that that send email, if we click that or save the task, it will now give you an email. Come on, it's a bit slow. So it will now give you an email. It's not popping up. Sorry about that. What's happening in here? So basically it should pop up an email. Let me do that again. Okay. So it should pop up an email that will now is highly customizable in terms of what you will be putting in. So it will have the email task.cle that allows you to customize the email cover to suit your operation, okay? So if I go back to my screen now, on both of those screens, okay? I'll close the old version for now, and we'll concentrate more on the new version. Okay. If I then look into the other features that are available in Exo, okay? On the invoice search screen, they have now added the email invoice button. So in the previous version, for you to be able to email an invoice, you have to print the invoice and then wait for the prompt for you to be able to invoice it. But in this new version, you have the email invoice function that allows you to skip that printing, and it will just be emailing that invoice. Okay. Now, looking into another feature of Exo, if I want to enter a sales order, for example, but before I do that, I wanted you to look into that new screen of Exo. It is really nice. It will have this in-between highlights that will allow you to look into records more clearer. And you would notice that you also have this compact actions button. So if the previous Exo version, they're saying that the Exo screen is so busy, with the use of this compact screen, you now have like drop-down options, which will give you those icons that you can previously see in the new version. The further actions also allowed you to have those custom buttons that you put in now with the caption that is set in your Exo config. So this look and feel of Exo is definitely modern now, and it was designed for the users that are using small laptops or computers, so it will still be okay for them to use. Okay, so let me try and create a new order. So say, for example, I create an order for account number 21. Okay. Okay. So it's still giving you all those warnings as per your setup. But what I would like to show you here is the changes that they have done on the exchange rate. So a common problem when you're dealing with multi-currency Exo system is when they type the exchange rate, they commonly put in the wrong decimal places. So say, for example, they are meaning 1.36, but they will be typing 136. This is now giving you an alert to say that you are beyond the expected threshold. That threshold can be set up in your currencies table, okay? So you can set up a different threshold per currency. Mind you though that this threshold or that warning will appear in all the screens of Exo. So if you have transactions on the sales orders that will be requiring an exchange rate, purchase orders, receipts, payments, job costing, inwards goods costing, those will all be available, or this functionality is available on the screen. Okay, this is just a warning, so it won't block you to change it, but it's a warning that you can then change with the correct exchange rate. The second thing that I would like to show you in here is the use of the memo field. So this is a sample memo field, okay? I purposely typed in there sample incorrectly spelled so that it will show you with a red line in it. So you can right click on that one to be able to change it with the correct spelling. And Exo is supported by 3 different dictionaries. You've got the Australian dictionary, which is the default. You've got the Australian and British dictionary supported by Exo as well. Okay, so when I said multi-lines, you can actually put in multiple lines in here. And the number of lines that you can put in will depend on how you set it up when you set up that extra field. It also supports Unicode. So Unicode are the characters wherein it is outside the Western language, American language. So if you're using Chinese, Korean, Japanese, it's all supported in Exo now. So just to illustrate, I don't have any Chinese characters, but I can use even the emojis. So if I want to put in some of those emojis in any of my emails or sales orders or anything wherein you type in some information, that will be accepted in Exo. And I'm happy to tell you that Clarity also supports emoji. So if you wanted to print those using Clarity, they will be printed. So if you're using other characters like Japanese, Korean, Chinese characters, it's now supported in Exo. Okay. So next that I would like to show you is on the debtor screen. Okay. So if I go to a debtor screen, again, you will see those in between highlights. It's still now larger fonts, which will be easier to read. And it will have the same facelift that is available on the 2020 version. So if I will be looking into account 21, for example, and I go to the notes tab, you will see that in every screen that will have a text, the spelling checker is enabled. So you can see those lines that are misspelled. So you can just right click and correct the spelling. Also, on the transactions tab, you can see that this is now a better screen because it's not really that busy. And all those icons that were present in the old version, they are now available under the new drop-down option to create an invoice, payment, or credit, or actions if you are trying to allocate a payment against an invoice. We're doing an invoice search, emailing an invoice or statement. So while I am on this screen, I would like to click on the new payment screen, because this screen is also enhanced by putting in the invoice search. So sometimes you receive a payment and you don't know who the customer is, but you have the invoice number that they are trying to pay. So you can just type in, for example, a part of that invoice number. So if you will look into here, I am at 21 Comfort Automotive Service as a client, but if this payment is for James Barry, for example, I can double click on it and it will automatically change my payment screen with that information coming from the invoice that was chosen. So this will definitely help you on the entry of the payment. It will make it a lot easier for users, okay? Now, another thing that I would like to show you, and I would reckon this is one of the really, really, really good features of Exo 2020, is with regards to stock adjustments, okay? So you would notice that this is a different screen. It is now called Stock Movement Import. So in here, it gives you the ability to be able to import codes from the clipboard or from the file, okay? So I have prepared something in here that I can just import. So note that I am highlighting the header and the line information, and I can then import that file from clipboard. So Exo is smart enough to put in the description and the quantity, and it's also doing validation. So card is not a valid stock code from your stock code masters. So it will give you the ability to change that with the correct stock code. Note the quantity is 10 there, but if I will be choosing the right code, say for example, airfill 05, it changed it to 1, so make sure that you change that to the right quantity. It also allows you to import the same file or a different file. Say for example, you're doing stock type, and each of the team will have their own stock type adjustment. You can just import them in one screen and we'll have a big adjustment screen. Okay? So that is now still an invalid stock code card, and you have the ability to clear all if you have imported some data that is incorrect, or you can just remove the errors. So if I remove the errors, that will allow me now to have that screen fully validated, and I can save that. Okay, so I can save that screen, and of course I can print the document if need be. Okay, another major enhancement on the stock movement is the average cost adjustment. In the previous version, a lot of users are having issues when they are changing the average cost is because they are not putting in the correct stock quantity, because the average cost applies to all your stock within your Exo system. So now with this system, you can see that there's no more location on the header, and there's no more quantity at the line level. And actually, that import function will also work. So even though I have the stock code on quantity on my spreadsheet that I copied, quantity is not showing here, and the unit price is taken, and then you can change that average cost to whatever average cost you want to change to. Okay, without worrying about the location and without worrying about the quantity for all for all locations. Okay, so I can again remove the errors and I can save it. Now, one thing that is very, very important to remember when you're doing this stock code average cost adjustment is that who are the users that can change the average cost. So if you just go to your Exo config setting, if you type in movement, you have the ability to change the stock movement transaction type access rights of every user. So if you put in Y, that means they are, they have the authority to do all the stock movement, but if you will only be allowing them to do transfer, adjust in and out, and nothing on the adjustment of cost, then you can set that up as well. So there should be no problem in doing that. Now, not only did MYOB give you that average cost adjustment from that movement screen, they also gave that functionality from the stock item master details. So again, you can now have that change average cost in there only if you are authorized to do a stock code adjustment. So this is a cleaner screen, straightforward on how you can change the average cost to the new average cost of the item. Okay. And lastly, if you go to your post ledgers to screen when you're doing your end of month roll, and then you wanted to customize now what periods can be locked and open per sub ledger, you now have that flexibility in this new version. In the current version, Exo will automatically lock everything and will just leave current period and the 1 month previous open in all subledgers. But in this new version, it gives you the ability to lock or open selected periods as per your requirements. Normally, they want debtors to be closed, but they still want creditors, stock, and GL to be open. So that gives you more control on the period locking. So that's it for me for the first session, and you will be hearing from me again for the empowering business on the use of business alerts later on. Thank you.
Thanks, Terelou. Just got a question here in regards to your presentation from Helen. When emailing an invoice from the invoice number search, will the debtor's email address come up automatically, or will you still have to do a manual enter of that email address?
So so the answer to that is, if you will be looking into the debtor account on details 2 tab, you can nominate where it will go, and that will be the highest on the hierarchy. And
Great.
if that is not available, it will then allow you to use the email from the details one tab of the screen. So that is the hierarchy. So it will automatically put those email addresses. And if you have enabled confirm email pop up on the screen, then you have the ability to either change that or add email addresses into it. So.
Fantastic. Helen, if you've got any further questions around that, what we can do is we can organise a one-on-one session just to run you through how it works. But in short, the answer, I believe, is yes. Thank you, Terelou. We'll speak to you again shortly for the second part of the presentation.